Morning, everyone. Welcome to a Sunday special. We're back again with Helen, Ross, Adam, Jay, and myself. Hello. Welcome
Good
back.
Good morning.
morning. It's been a
Morning.
while, chat.
It has been a while. Yes. How long was it been? Like 7, 8 months since we last did this. But we missed it so much that we're back. So yeah, welcome back.
Back again with Sorry, that's me.
Amazing. All right, Alan. Well, it's a good start. I think today we just want to do like a bit of an update what we've all been up to, and Adam is going to do a live audible version of his Sunday supplement, and we're just going to chat about the property market in general. So, yeah, who would like to start? What shall we start with?
So,
Do you want to start with a
right,
catch up of what everyone's been doing?
Yeah, let's do that.
Go on, Ross.
do you want me? Yeah. So, it's been quite quiet property for me by comparison to most other years. We've bought about, I think, in total 200 houses this year. So the numbers have been quite good, but most of them were done. Probably quite a lot of those were done with Adam and Rod, but most of them were done by the first half of the year. Thereafter, the lack of stock's been really tricky. So for a lot of our property businesses, actually finding deals, getting them over the line has been incredibly tough. Most of the sourcers we're dealing with are saying the exact same thing. There's not a lot of product out there. There's not a lot to be done with it. And I think estate agents, because of that, have had to up their game. They are now selling stuff that they wouldn't have touched before just because they need fees. I think with this kind of declining market in terms of amount of stock, the big effect is the smaller estate agents who don't hold much stock are living quite hand to mouth just now. They can sell the stuff they can get amazing prices for it. We had a closing date for a flat in Ayrshire this week, and it went for £40,000 over its £160,000 price, and it's unheard of in that area or location. But it's just people who were moving from different areas, so prices are really strong. Stock we found is limited. There have been some spectacular deals. I managed to pick up something that I talked about last year that I haven't actually done much work to, but it's gone up nearly £1 million in value over the last 11 months. So that's been quite incredible, and I haven't done anything to it. It's just the values have all rocketed up. So trying to take advantage of that, but it's quite short lived. Personally, I've changed my living arrangements. Lockdown last year taught me I could work from anywhere, so I'm splitting my time now between Glasgow and Dubai. I'm obviously in Glasgow at the moment, as you might see with the buildings around me. So we went out to Dubai about 3 or 4 months ago, and I've just split my time backwards and forwards for work. So still doing all my work things here. I set up a couple of companies in Dubai. One's an import-export company to take advantage of the proximity to China and my contacts there. We've also set up a business which will take computers apart, buy old computers, take them apart, split them into parts, and then supply that to other people. So what you tend to do is get job lots of old computers from big companies. You pay money for them, you take them to a central point, break them all down, and then you sell off the constituent parts. I've never done that before, so it's quite interesting considering I didn't own a computer until about 3 months ago. So I'm finding it quite interesting to even see what the inside of a computer is. But Raymond, my business partner on this, he's done this before, so it's quite good. Seems to be quite a good business. So apart from that, work-wise, personal life, quite a lot of change, but not really as much as I would have liked to have achieved by this point this year. And that's me.
Brilliant. And the massive thing was for you as well, completing the church, right? And
Yeah,
like
sorry, I
kind of
forgot what. Yeah, good point. So that's been 5 years in the making. Done for the second time. Mandy, who I work with in Glasgow, has for the last 3 months has been cracking the whip and getting the guys finished. So first people moved in last week. It's quite emotional. Somebody actually said to me, "What are you going to do when you don't have the church in your life?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's true. I've never woken up one morning and not had a thought about the church." So I think that'll take a wee bit of time to change, but I'm sure I'll manage to replace it with something else equally as difficult at some point.
That's right. Yeah. Well, there's been some good comments. Is it quite through 200 houses?
Yeah, well, but a lot of that was set up, as Adam will know, was set up last year, and some of the bigger deals that you were able to do were because people were worried about COVID, and you managed to get some spectacular deals out of it. And in effect, confusing most of us, the property market supply got limited, demand got incredible, and then the prices have just rocketed. I think I must have asked every single day, and I'm sure you guys do as well, about what's going to happen. Is it all going to implode next year? And the reality of it is, if you base it on the current supply and demand, it doesn't look like it can implode. It looks physically impossible. So, which doesn't make it easier if you're a property trader like me. You want some kind of things going on that make it difficult because you want to be able to buy the stock. Just isn't there at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Well, we noticed at some point, like it was really difficult to do deals like in auctions and stuff. But I think the last maybe 2 or 3 months, things got a little bit more tricky with the market, and it kind of slowed down. And we noticed a lot more people actually doing deals from auctions, but also outside as well, because things just become a little bit more sticky. So, but you just need to pick up the right things because not everything will sell again.
I'm surprised Adam's not rubbing his hands at that. Things are getting a little more sticky.
Nice one. Well, welcome everyone. Dominic.
I was too busy sending a message asking to buy someone's portfolio. Sorry, my mistake.
Adam's already on the deal with them, so nice one. Okay, good. Well, who would like to go next?
Go on, Jay.
Go on, Jay. Chuck me in the mix, lovely.
You can follow Ross. It's easy game.
I'll give it a go. He's got such dulcet tones; it's difficult to follow that pitch. That's the problem. So 200 houses. Well, no, not done that. So a lot of things that we've done. We've done some decent trades. I think maybe 3. It feels like maybe 2, 3. We're in the middle of one at the moment, which was going to be a trade, but actually is decent enough to hold. And it has to be decent enough to hold because there's an element of it that's residential, and everybody knows how I come out in hives at residential. So if it's good enough for us to hold it, then it's a pucker little deal. But there's a story around that one. We bought it at auction, and the auctioneer completely cocked it up. So if anyone wants to hear a little bit more about that one, there's currently a complaint with the PRS on that. So let's see what happens there. So we launched our distress asset platform, which is a joint venture with myself, Piotr, and some tech level genius god people. They talk in ways that I could never understand. But we basically took a skeleton platform that they had built to service one area of their business, and they realized actually what their system had done is it created all this other data that was just meaningless for them, but is applicable for the market at wide, so market at large even. So they thought, oh, we'll have a chat with a couple of other property people that we know. So they reached out to us. And it's a brilliant little thing. They use this algorithm and all this other fancy stuff where it draws information from companies that are going into receivership, administration, voluntary, involuntary, whatever you want to call it. It takes that information, it then backdoors that information and pulls out any real property assets that those companies own. And it presents those as opportunities on the platform. So you know that the people who own the property are in distress. The assets are normally being managed or controlled by receivers for the main part. The properties by and large are off market. And if some of these properties were bought 10 years ago and need to be sold at either debt or debt plus level, which means there's maybe some potential for a BMV element in there. So we're not currently marketing it as an off-market BMV platform. It is just the sellers are distressed. I think we have or had about 50 users on there, which was really good considering we haven't really pushed it that much or that far. And a couple of people are doing deals and things like that. We've got 6 offers live on there at the moment, which are not progressing very far. But those 6 deals, if they come off, would be really very good. Mainly mixed use commercial in the southeast of London. What else are we doing? I've stepped back from auction house for personal and time reasons, which has made it easier to focus the majority of my time on finding more deals and building the business and the portfolio up. So that's been me.
Nice one.
Succinct and perfectly formed.
Thank you.
Go on, Helen.
I think I froze there for a moment. I hope I don't freeze again. I am actually bleeding freezing at the moment. It's cold in Malta. It's only 20 degrees. Sorry. Well, this year, actually, it's been a quiet year for me, actually. But my quiet isn't 200 houses. I love that perspective from Ross. My quiet is like 5 deals or something. Can't exactly remember. But I've spent most of this year. Well, actually, no. I wasn't back in the UK for 10 months, which I've never been in one country for 10 months solid since I worked out since I was on the trading floor when I was 26. That is a long time. So yeah, obviously, travel was quite difficult. But then went back for Adam's brand in there. Went back for the Partners in Property live Birmingham meet. Well, it was in Birmingham in the summer. Was back in the summer for 3 months. So that was really good to actually be there and see people and real life people. That was awesome. I was back to record the series which is just finished, the Property Elevator Show. We did 6 episodes of that this time. I think it was much better than the previous series. I hope other people found that. And we had amazing sponsors, including National Property Auctions. Thank you. So that was fun. We've also we recorded it's kind of like The Apprentice. So, well, I'm not seeing it. It's still in editing, so we'll see how it turns out. But there's another program we recorded with John Howard and Fiona Talbot called Property Graduates. So hopefully within the next month that will be shown as well. So, but I've been kind of doing a bit more like Ross and Adam, actually diversifying into new stuff. As I say, property's been quite quiet. So I've dipped my toe in the water of my first startup. I've actually been trading my own stuff, not property, just other stuff, trading my own stuff a lot more. So keeping busy, but yeah, 200 houses wouldn't be a quiet year for me. I love that perspective, Ross.
Nice.
Adam set big targets.
It is a very different busy, but it's we've seen you all on social media with all sorts of TV sets. So definitely enjoying the what's the program, Property Elevator.
Yeah, it's been fun. We did a live version of it at the National Landlord Investment Show as well last week. So again, I popped back last week or the week before, to London for that. So that was really good to do it live, and we had some three great people, including Omar, that many of you know. Me and Omar nearly did a deal. Actually, need to follow up with him on a conversation about that. So yes, so watch this space.
Well, he's definitely a good person to do a deal with that kind of attention to details.
Yeah.
We can speak personally on this as we've done a deal with him, so it's not endorsing him just because he's a mate, but we've done a deal together. So
yeah, no, great guy. He did an amazing. So many people commented on him. I think he got some really great feedback from that. From that, like the pack was amazing. His numbers were amazing. It was really thorough. And he did some good negotiating with the Angels as well. That was pretty impressive.
Nice one. Cool. Nice one, Helen. Well, I'll go next before Adam takes over the rest of the show. Um, so for me, the last sort of recent months, mostly like I spend it working on the client stuff and selling things for clients in auctions. But we also, like Jay said, we're developing quite a few new things. So like we've got pretty much like almost five different businesses running in parallel. The selling for clients in auctions, that's going super well. We've had we literally work with almost every auction yet in London on selling the stuff, and things are selling fairly well. In terms of our own investing, we did that deal in Crystal Palace. We did a couple of trades, so things are lively out there, but we're also looking to scale that up by launching our own kind of our own platform and also our own way to the market, which is slightly new thing for us, but definitely a way to go. And I've spent most of the time living in abroad. Like at the moment, I live in Lisbon, and it seems to be working well for my my mental well-being. Because the couple of months that I spent in London were like, luckily it was summer, but if it wasn't summer, I don't know what I would do with myself.
That week when it went really cold, I was literally had to get out, go to storage and get my winter coat out, and I'm like, seriously, sod this, I'm going home again.
Nice, and I think that's the positive thing from all this COVID lockdown stuff. But people realized a lot of things can be done from remotely, and there are things that cannot be done remotely can be outsourced, and it's literally a matter of choice where we live, how we do things.
Brilliant. Well, look, you've already had more than your contractual 27% of time between you, so thanks very much.
Okay, see you later. It's been lovely seeing you.
I thought you might pipe up on the weather front. I mean, the Scots contingent must be horrified hearing this namby-pamby behaviour. Chorley, you're from the north for a start. What are you doing? You're letting us all down. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I turned into a softy southerner a long time ago.
Fair enough. So, yeah, I mean, very much like Ross, although it's manifested in different ways, the acquisition side of what we do, which was a big focus for years, has not completely collapsed, although furlough was very handy for us because we had a sort of sub business which was about buying property at auction. So whilst we would sort of flip and trade and do stuff like that, we for our own selves and for a couple of high net worth clients, we've been building portfolios for a few years. And effectively that business evaporated, firstly because there were no auctions, and then going on from that because there wasn't enough stock, things were achieving too much in terms of pricing. I like to look at the stuff that everybody doesn't like because it just makes life easier, and everybody liked everything. So that kind of screwed up the contrarian mindset, really. So we've brought that, we've phoenixed that business. Well, we haven't phoenixed it, we didn't fold it in the first place, but we've resurrected it, let's say, thanks to the Chancellor's safety net that was provided, and things are not back to where they were, as I know people watch the auction stats quite closely, especially the people on this call. But there are opportunities out there again, which is great. So we've had a couple pre-auction, we've had a couple at auction, not as many at auction as we would normally want, and we've got a couple of irons in the fire for some post-auction stuff as well. And there is a little change in the air that people actually want to transact and they want to sell rather than they think they can just get a crazy price for something. So that's healthy to see, and I'm pleased to be persevering with that part of the business. And then I'd love to say it was strategic genius, but it was more like risk management. Sorry, Ross, risk management on in reality, because effectively when we saw the materials prices going up quite as quickly as they were, we were very hot on that and started to up our estimates and our budgets very, very quickly. And that effectively protected us from overpaying for stuff anyway. So something that I just slid into the supplement this morning, but framing it in this way, where ultimately if property's gone up, 10, 13%, but materials and labour are up 30, then ultimately tired houses and pieces of land have actually gone down in value. Now, a lot of people would disagree with that, primarily the vendors of knackered houses and the owners of plots of land. But that is the reality, and the market speaks. Now, other people I don't think have been as quick to do their numbers, and you're still seeing, I discussed with Richard Bowser of Property Investor News about a property in Coventry that needed about 40 grand's worth of work. It's worth 240 absolute tops, and it sold in auction for 204 before fees and stamp the other day. And it's not really, even if you did the work yourself, you're still going to spend 25k on what needs spending on the house just because of materials, or you're just not going to do a proper job. Well, that's up to you. But £250,000 GDV, that seems a bit silly. So that side of things has come back a bit. I've been persevering with really enjoying working with Rod on our boardroom club. That's been lots of fun, and like Piotr was saying, it's also been super flexible for people. So we've got someone who lives in Spain in the club at the moment. He's actually moved to Spain whilst all this has been going on. So he joined and he's building a portfolio and he's moved to Spain. So that's quite cool that we can still work with him. And we've had lots of others as well. We've had quite a lot of fun doing that. And then also running at the Genesis site that Rod, Ross and I purchased. We've been having conversations with people about leasing various bits of the facility. So for those who don't know, there's 32 serviced offices. There's 25,000 square foot leisure element to the complex. There's another 2,500 square foot leisure building. And there's a couple of sizable, one small, one large industrial unit as well, light industrial stuff as well. The offices, we've got up to about 75% occupancy, which we're happy with because they were under 40. And we've only lost one tenancy due to working from home, and another due to they've purchased a facility of their own because they've seen a good opportunity during COVID. So good luck to them. And other than that, it's all one-way traffic on the way in, which is fantastic. But of course, when the business reopened, there wasn't really a business there at all. There was a bowling alley, which we refurbed during the lockdown and did the best job that we could on it. We've not refurbed any bowling alleys before, so it's good to get that one in the book.
Have you won a game of bowling yet, Adam?
Wow. I have won many. Do you know what my high score is, Ross?
78 was the last.
201. So just remember it. Just remember it.
Is that because you were bowling everybody else's bowls again?
The reality is, I said to Rod beforehand, I said, look, if I let you beat me, then we can get quite a lot of good press out of this. So that's what it was. That's all it was. Shameless PR. But yeah, the bowling business is quite good. We got some good tips from some people beforehand. The thing is, bowling's a bad weather sport, and not for those who've flown. Not the 60% of the contingent that now live outside of the UK will know. You can't change the weather in the UK. So pointing out to people that it's going to be raining this weekend, which it is most of the time, is our best marketing hook at the moment. But as we go into the summer holidays, then ultimately we're obviously, as we go into the Christmas period, the Christmas holidays and everything else, then we're hoping to see the take go up as well. We're getting some events in the events venue, which is good. We're just working on positioning that, and probably can't decide whether to get a Kickstarter to help us out on the events management side of things, or just use some self-employed consultants. So if anybody knows any venue managers or people like that who work on a consultancy basis, I would absolutely love to talk to them, please. Because all we got in terms of offers for rental for the leisure facility was, I think they're technically called piss take offers, really. How many ones are doing them, because that's obviously exactly what I would do in the circumstances. But we've decided we've got to build the business up to something reasonable before anybody makes us a serious offer to lease it from us. So that's not taking too much time, because we've got a very capable individual at the helm of that on a day-to-day basis. So She has the privilege of being managed by myself and Rod, also known as Good Cop, Bad Cop. And then, other than that, a couple of other little trading businesses that I've got involved in to just diversify those streams of income a little bit further. I've been spending quite a lot of time with a software developer that I've worked with for about 6 years now to do some non-property stuff, which is starting to yield some results as well. So after my multiple streams of income, went on hold for a few months during the pandemic, I thought, right, well, I really need to maybe just diversify a little bit further and just make sure I've got some good people in post running some of those businesses. Channeled the inner Ross, I'd probably call it, realistically. The ultimate coach.
Nice. You've been busy, Adam. You've been busy.
Well, yeah, I think we've definitely done fewer than 200 houses. Ross and I are sharing 100 there, so I mean we can't both count them, otherwise we'd be proper gurus.
No, just count them. It's fine.
Oh, okay, fair enough. But we probably only done about 40, maybe 50 deals other than that, which is quiet by our standards. But they've been good. They've been good deals. Ross and I had a chat probably 3, 4, 5 months ago now, where basically the subject of the chat was, should we be paying more for stuff realistically? And our conclusion was no, we shouldn't. Well, we can pay a little bit more, but obviously going back to the chat we already had, if it's already knackered, no, we can't pay any more. We've got to pay less. And if we're going to chase what other people are doing because they seem to have got some funding from somewhere, I'd rather just wait till they go broke and buy their business when reality dawns, when the tide goes out.
Yeah,
I can the viewers will be pleased to hear when the tide goes out, they will find myself and Mr. Harper and not swimming naked, and there's multiple reasons to be happy about that.
Nice. And there's been some comments that we've had. Dominic asked if the invention of Class MA changed things for much.
I mean, I could just talk about that briefly, because we had a deal on the go that we couldn't close before the 1st of August. So it did change a bit, but it didn't, because we've still been able to proceed under PD for what we wanted to do with the building. So it just changed the technicals of it. It didn't change anything in particular. And obviously, even I have given up trying to keep on top of all the planning changes because I'm not a planning expert. And I've just said, you know what, I've normally got a good idea with a building, what letter of the alphabet or letters of the alphabet we'll be using. But I've just defaulted to Colin, can you help me out? Ian, can you help me out? You know, that's the sum total these days. So I suppose it has changed. It's probably changed a bit about my confidence in spotting some of those opportunities. But we've defaulted to more difficult deals this year that other people just haven't been bothered to solve. I'll give you an example. We bought a small mixed use unit we bought it for 110k. It was actually the commercial, which had 9 years unbroken left on lease with guarantors in place. So it's decent. So there's about 85k of rent left in that lease over the next 9 years. And then there were 2 flats above the shop already written onto leaseholds. The vendor was very, very difficult to deal with. There was VAT involved. Now, obviously, people listening carefully will know that there's VAT on the commercial element, but there can't be on the resi element of the building. We've got a trading company we could buy it into, so we could do it as a transfer of going concern. You know, it's a tiny, tiny deal. You wouldn't really necessarily have all this knowledge at your fingertips to do a deal like this. But it was getting 15 grand a year in rent in total. And we thought, well, look, 14% yield works for me. And we know where it's going to revalue at. It'll revalue at about 8% yield. So it's a cracking purchase and it's worth going through the hassle with. And as soon as we bought it, the guy who the next door shop is the lessee on the premises, and he phoned me up and he said, do you want to sell it? And I said, well, let's have a conversation, but why didn't you just buy it? And he said, well, you know, basically he couldn't work out the VAT thing, couldn't work this out, he couldn't work that out. And he said, how much do you want to sell the shop for? I said, well, I'll probably sell it for 110 grand, because that's what we paid for the whole lot. And he said, but you've only paid 110. I said, I don't care what I've paid for it. I want to realise what it's worth. That's the thing. So, and there's another guy who owns all of the rest of the buildings around there, who seems to be taking a more than healthy interest in our tenants in the flats above, who sent me a message yesterday, basically revealing his true colours. I want to undercut your current agents. I want to do this. I want to do that. And I was like, jolly good, but my current agents, I didn't tell him the bit where they're 50% owned by myself, but the other part was they manage several hundred tenancies all over the country, and they know what they're doing. So thanks for knocking on the door, but see you later. So those sorts of things have come about because people just don't understand the structure of the deal. I'm doing another one it's a commercial building at the moment, just a couple of 100 square meters, good positioning, vastly underlet. So it's getting £600 a month for the whole building. You get more than 600 for just the front of the downstairs, and that'll be split into two retail units downstairs because it's on a good solid high street, nice and small, no rates, no issues. The entrance is already there for the other shop. It's just perfect. And then 2 flats upstairs under PD as well. So ideal. So I don't know that. I think there's been as many opportunities come up as there has been go away due to what's happened with the planning. And I suppose it does. Ross was saying earlier, and I totally agree with what he said. If it's not difficult, then we're stuck really, because where does our knowledge advantage? How do we arbitrage the price and the risk if the market's just running away from us? So when things change and it's confusing, I think it is a bit helpful really. So
it's like in the auctions, like if there's a deal which is just a refurb and nothing else fancy, it's going to go for crazy money probably. But if it's lease problem, legal problem, title problem, all this kind of problems,
send it over.
No one wants to buy this. There's no competition, and it goes for such a low price that you can take time sorting out the issues. So you make money.
Yeah, I mean, just jumping on some of your examples there, Adam, for the MA changes is we've been looking in the auctions for a lot of mixed-use commercial assets been coming up into auction with lapsed planning. And the beautiful thing with lapsed planning is actually most of the auctioneers value the property based on reigniting that lapsed planning, phoenixing that lapsed planning, right? Which means it's probably a little bit over odds. But if you realise actually you could just do MA, which means you're most likely not going to be paying any SIL or any 106 or anything like that. All of a sudden, you're creating marginal gains just by being flexible with, how it's structured. And to be honest, most of these things are going unsold because they're being valued with a view of phoenixing the planning. So you kind of have to strip it back to base value, give them 10% on hope, and nick it. And there's a lot of those going on. So actually, if you know these things exist, and we're still at that kind of tipping point where entrepreneurial investors like us and maybe a bunch of people that are watching this video know about the PD changes and things like that. But a lot of exiting landlords or landlords of a day don't necessarily know about PD anyway, or know about the recent changes and what's able to be done with it. So there's a bit of a squeak and a chance with some of those. We did myself, Rod, Piotr, and Ranjan do a regular slot on the Rodcast and Ranjan's YouTube video, and I highlighted one of these deals that is going to auction this month, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work if you reignite the planning. It doesn't work if you do PD. It doesn't work if you knock it down and stick a knocking shop up there. It doesn't work. It's too expensive. So it's not going to sell.
So you've been through all the potential permutations there, Mr. Howard.
All avenues, as always, multiple exits, multiple ways to add value, multiple ways to look at it.
Is that what your knocking shop was called? All avenues. That's interesting.
All avenues, yeah.
Right, this is going downhill. There's young people watching.
Is that what yours was? Is that what your one's called, Ross?
We've got to bring this off the dirt track and back onto the main road.
Jay's fault. It was all Jay's fault. He made me do it.
Yeah.
Not for the first time have we heard that. But no, so there's a lot of opportunities. And I think the point there is vendors don't know what they have, agents don't know how to value it. So if you know how to position yourself, you know how to offer value as a price point, then there are some good deals to have out there. But I mean, like we've all said, we don't deal in the kind of vanilla kind of deals. The way that we operate is that we have to have something that has a significant problem, significant enough to scare the majority of people away from it, but easy enough that we have that kind of inside track knowledge or experience to kind of unwind it, and in that unwinding, unlocking the actual true market value. And that's before we pick up a spade or a paintbrush and actually do anything tangible to the deal. So, it's mad at the moment, but it's a ton of fun.
What I like about that, though, is you're structuring your approach there, Jay. It's absolutely brilliant, because you can then apply that over and over and over and over again. It's a system for buying that you're going. Then once you've gone to one agent and said, "Well, I did it for this plus 10%," you've got more in the bag, but they don't. And then you can say, "Well, I applied this here and it worked, and then I applied it here," and then you can just roll it out. That's great, really good, especially to have. I think having structure in a market like this, where it's actually hard to buy deals, gives you something tangible to look after. That's what we've been talking about to the auction valuers. Yes, it's hard to get stock. Yes, it's difficult, but stock's still there. You just have to refine what you're doing and keep doing and keep going over and over and over again. That's really good.
Nice one.
I interrupted you, Adam.
No, I was just going to say very much the same, but give it a posher name. Like I was going to say, there's some great knowledge arbitrage there, some information asymmetry, but that's a beautiful, beautiful tip there from Jay. And I think I look at those sort of lapse planning things normally as it's a bit like a Sudoku. I really enjoy doing it, but sometimes it takes too much time and effort. So I'd rather try and do something else. But when there's big margins, when they're the right size deals, they're fantastic. And I think the beauty of that is it also works at a decent size level of deal. It's not you're not having to. Sometimes I'm picking through not the very bottom of the auction stuff, but one strata above that. Whereas it can be much smarter to do something. If you've got the confidence and the firepower and the right people around you, why not do something 10 times the size? There's no reason not to.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a point for discussion if anyone's heard of it recently. Did anyone hear that a property educator is suing a Facebook group for £10 million for defamation?
My legal team have advised me not to comment on this issue. Sorry.
So can I just say, can we go back to the first few words? A property educator? Is he? Really?
Well, I think that's what it's coined. I use that phraseology just to kind of tie the things together rather than endorse him as an educator. But you're quite right. A snake oil salesman is screwing over 10 innocent people who are trying to bring some injustices to light, and for £10 million for a case of defamation. And they're doing something called crowd justice, and they've literally just been funded their first £10,000 to kind of fight this back.
I think rather than comment on the finer points of the case, I think what I would probably say is my take on it is it's nearly a frivolous lawsuit. It's designed to take up all their time, attention, and energy, and financially cripple them in litigation. It's extremely transparent that it is what it is. That much is obvious. So I feel for the people involved, and I think the other thing is they'll probably find out very quickly who their friends are and aren't versus some of the people who've pretended to cozy up to them over the years. And it's a rough situation, and I think I'll leave it there because I could really go off on one about this one. So I'm going to leave it there.
Not like you, Adam. Did you learn during COVID how to sit in a fence or something?
Well, it's that expensive these days, fencing. You have to learn to sit on it. You got to get your money's worth.
I'm really wishing I had me two blow-up sharks with me at the moment. I mean, that's just scumbag tactics, isn't it? But I think what you find with these people, and I actually don't know about this. I don't even know the people involved, but I'm hoping you'll tell me later. it is that the rules and morals and the ethics that the rest of us operate, I just don't apply to these people. They're not even in their realm of, consciousness. So it's just true colours. I think we've seen a lot of true colours over this past 18 months or so. Just more of that, isn't it?
I think I said at the beginning, the thing is, you'll see the best of people and you'll see the worst of people, and we've absolutely seen it. And I know we have a qualified lawyer on the call, but I think this is probably one of the places where the old phrase, the law is an ass, comes from, really, because the spirit of the law and the letter of the law are not necessarily the same thing. And unfortunately, when it comes to defamation, libel, etc., there's going to be some opinion in this case. And there are, unfortunately, it will be, if I was them, the other thing I probably will say is I would be contacting Facebook's legal team if they haven't already, because this could set a precedent. I think, and I've not read every post on that group. I've watched some of the stuff. I think they did some good work. I also think they went after some people that didn't deserve it. So that's and that's not me meaning to sit on the fence. That's a statement of fact as I see it, as far as the work of the group is concerned. But I'd be contacting Facebook's legal team, because this is a test case, in my view, for are you responsible as an administrator or a moderator of a group for what other people are saying within that group? Because the most damaging content, if a judge even deems any of it to be defamation, but the very most damaging content has not been posted by the admins and the moderators of the group. So what's the and this could see people, groups are a big part of what Facebook does. This could see groups collapse if it was framed in that way. So maybe they should get it over to Meta, if they can resolve the fact that somebody's already called Meta, and see what they think about it. Because if you ever need to draft in any muscle, a £10 million defamation claim is probably a good time to get someone worth $126 billion involved, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's I think you've made some really good points there, in terms of the letter of the law. You look at something like this and you instantly want to take a moralistic standpoint, right? And that's not what's being applied here. I have to say, I've seen some of the stuff in the group, and I know the person who's started the action. I don't know much more than that, but you find yourself picking a side, right? And instantly you think, right, okay, here this is where is the right, where is the wrong? And that's one of the interesting things about the English legal system. It's not actually about right or wrong for the most part. And I think it's going to be a very interesting test case. I wouldn't want to be them. I think they set it up for the right reasons, at least in the beginning. But again, the other point you make is, can an admin be held liable personally for the misgivings or the words spoken by others in a group? And that is a very interesting technical point there.
Well, I should have been a lawyer. I've got room for another degree. I've still got to catch you up anyway.
I keep telling Piotr I need to do another degree just to go a furlong ahead, just to make
just to really stamp on my ego. I think it's a great idea. What's the fastest degree you can do? That's what I need to know.
I was thinking I'll do a degree in origami or something like that. Quick, simple, just knock one out, move on to the next one. Do floristry, whatever.
What about a degree in property education? You seem to get that over a weekend for 399 quid.
Yes, well,
cool. But I think it'll be good as if we get some interactions from people who are watching this and get their opinions on what they would like to see if we are to continue those Sunday chats and what kind of content they're interested in, and if it's valuable, because I guess we're happy doing it, and we're happy to share whatever views and opinions we've got on the market, and it'll be good to know what people would like to hear.
Agreed. If anybody wants to leave any comments, we'll make an effort to have a look through and get back to them over the next sort of 24 hours. But yeah, some ideas would be great. It's just nice to be back.
Yes.
Nice to be back, yes. Yeah,
I think Sue Maxwell Smith asked to hear about the deal that's gone where the auctioneer buggered it up, Piotr.
Yeah, we've talked about it enough.
You're over it, are you?
It's the complaint is in, and it's a small case, but those cases happen all the time, and we're just gonna fight it till we get what's it should be there in first place. And that's it. Let's move on. Let's focus on good things in life and
Yes.
what moves things forward. Even if
That's why your inside mirror is the size it is, and your windscreen is the size it is. I heard that in a property training course. Always look forward.
But joking aside, though, if you go back to the property educators chat there and the court case, that's why I say that the guys involved, the guys and girls involved, will find out a lot about themselves because. I'll never forget when you phoned me the day after the church went on fire, and your mental strength at the time of adversity was, incredibly inspirational. And lots of people would have seen that and just gone, they wouldn't have known what to do. So you just dig deep. For you, it just seemed like another day. And I remember you saying as well, nobody's died, so let's put it into context, and then let's fix the problem, which you're extremely good at doing. So,
Yeah, but that apart from that, like that thing happening, and it does sound horrific, and it was a horrific thing. At the end of the day, you've built it once, you can build it again. I didn't quite realise the enormity of the task. Building it the second time was considerably harder than the first time, but it's like all these things that you just overcome challenges. I quite like what Piotr's saying there. Like with these deals, the only thing is you can't really mention them on the internet in front of lots of people who want to know about them, and then say it's a small deal, I don't want to tell you about it. That's the difficult bit of it. But getting your challenges out the road and just taking that as part of the road and part of the way it's going to be is a much easier thing. And I think the thing we're kind of skirting about or talking about educators. So the guy you were talking about, the £10 million court case, a lot of what he sells and a lot of what he peddles and a lot of what he says is actually accurate. Some of the stuff is really good, but the problem is there's no downside ever shown. Yes, you can become a millionaire in property quite quickly if nothing goes wrong, if you get all the money you want, if you can find the deal.
If you start with £2 million, yeah.
Well, I think it was you that said to me, what's the fastest way to become a multi-millionaire football club owner? And it's start off as a billionaire. It's that kind of stuff. And I think there are lots of people who have done very well taking their skills from other jobs and other things and bringing them into property. And that's done great. And quite a few of them, quite a lot of property course people have done that. They've got real world skills, they bring them into property and they do incredibly well, and they use an education system to get going. That's absolutely fine. The big problem is it's the guys who are the window cleaners who have got life savings, who put all their life savings into it and borrow money off their parents and borrow off their grandparents, and then it doesn't go the way it is perceived. That's the hard bit, because those people aren't really set up when the challenges come to have any idea of how to sort them. And 99 times out of 100, the actual educators, even though you're in a mastermind program, it doesn't mean it's a mastermind that's running it. It's it could be anybody. As long as they've got an inch more information than you have, they sound knowledgeable, or if they deliver it the right way. So it's just about knowing what's right and what's wrong, isn't it?
It's so true. It's so true.
It's so true. And I think that's why we like doing this and like telling that other side of it. If I can't remember, I'll find out and I'll put it in the chat later, but there's a brilliant article by Claire Norwood. I can't remember if it was this year or last year, but in Property Investor News, and she tells the other side of what property development as a new, she was kind of experienced in property but hadn't done development, what the real story's like. Mm-hmm. And it's exactly, as we've all said before, if they told those stories at education things, people wouldn't do it. Well, but people need to know this shit, right?
Yeah, but even Helen, to take that a stage further, quite a lot of the guys who are, and I'm not down in educators at all, because I'm friends with some of them are really good. We've got some guys at PIP who are spectacular and they run education businesses. But but as you say, they're telling quite a lot of the problems are the guys that are trying to make money out of education haven't actually done the things that they're trying to educate others on. I watched a video last night. I was showing my brother-in-law, an educator who was talking and came across brilliantly. It was a 13-minute video. He didn't miss a beat. He didn't and ah. And at the end of it, I said to my brother-in-law, what is it you think? What do you think? He said, it's pretty slick, isn't it? It sounds great. I said, if I told you that guy who's going to sell you education courses and property development has never completed a property development in his life, has never stuck bricks together, has never poured foundations, has never, acquired the stuff, has never been to Howdens to find they don't have the kitchen, or to the builder's yard to find out you're not going to get concrete for this, hasn't had any of the really, really basic problems. How can he then educate guys who are coming elsewhere and how can he be the person at the end of the phone when they get into trouble? Because he doesn't know what the answer is. Sermon ended. Sorry, I know it's Sunday.
So I was just desperate to mention his name because I've got a really good idea who you're talking about, but
well, there's only anyway, I better not say anything.
Yeah, but I think it's and if you go back, what would be quite interesting, I think, is to when you go back to the court case and stuff that Jay mentioned earlier. I think there's an argument that you could, talking about the spirit and the letter of the law. I think there's an argument you could take some of these people to court for having the wrong SIC code, because I've maintained for a long time that a lot of these are not education businesses; they're sales and marketing businesses, right? And I would define that by what's the primary amount of spend, what's the primary amount of number of headcount that are involved in what job, and you go and look under the hood of them, and it's sales. PIP employs no one whose job is sales, right? We do our own organic stuff, and perhaps that's why we're not a massive business, but we're not set up to be so, because that's not ultimately our objective. Certainly not by not telling people the truth. It's completely the other side of the coin. So, do you think
you're not our top salesman?
Do you think, Jay, we can take someone to court for using the wrong SIC code? That'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it? That'd be kind of cool.
I think more than I think if someone was to that's more of a probably an HMRC kind of thing, isn't it? Because it comes down to how you're reporting on profits and how those things are handled. And it would probably be, any solicitor you talk to will call it a 50-50. Oh, it's a really good semantic argument, but this hasn't been brought before, and blah 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 blah, and we don't know what kind of judge will say on it. You go to university for 6 years and they just tell you to be as non-committal as humanly possible. So yeah, I mean that is, yeah, God knows what will happen there. But I think that's actually really very interesting. And on a side point, I am talking at Partners in Property at the end of this month in brilliant.
Is this a
No, I'm just saying I can't wait. I'm going to the Bristol group, and I don't want to pit any groups against each other, but the guys that run that are definitely among my favoritist of all people on the planet. I mean, I love Angie and Ben. So that's a bit more of a shout out than anything else.
It's a fabulous venue as well. It's an awesome building in Clifton, so it's a lovely experience as well. So we're looking forward to seeing you there, mate.
When is that, Jay? When is that, Jay?
What's that, Pierre?
When is that?
I think it's the 28th, isn't it? The 28th. Okay.
Brilliant. And then you've got some interesting speakers in London as well.
Yeah, we've got Alan Chilton next Friday, so that's going to be massive. I mean, if we ever needed to fill, if Ross's 200 houses made you feel inadequate, then 50 billion of assets under management, 15 million of them resi, that's something we can all just not even count up to or even conceptualize. So looking forward to that one. That'll be awesome. And still at the Great Dickens Inn as well. So it's a difficult. It's between London and Bristol at the moment for which one's the most beautiful venue. To be honest, it's pretty spectacular stuff.
Nice, and Ed's saying that it's 26, Jay. 26.
Oh, it's the 26th. There you go. I was in the right kind of region. It's back end of the month. Can't wait.
Yeah, this month for sure.
This definitely this month. That's good. And it's Bristol.
Jay, be as non-committal as possible. This month in the UK.
Yeah, see, there you go. That's years of training.
Nice one. Well, one come from Dominic. You go for properties that don't appeal to the crowd. Would you go for PD Class G flats above retail if it's a listed building, or would you stay away? Ooh.
Look, I mean, listed buildings, it's all doable. It's all doable. But I mean, what an arse ache. Because you're never really sure what part of the building is listed until you get a listed housing officer person to turn up and start poking around at cornicings or fireplaces or fascia or whatever else. Then you have to kind of work your refurb and your internal modifications around those elements, and there could, or you have to even go in and you know, there could be parts of the building that are broken that are listed that need to be repaired sympathetically to original building methods and stuff like that. And before you know it, you know, you take your standard refurb cost, you're going to probably, you know, times by a half or even more in some occasions, depending on how big the project is. So if you don't know much about listed building conversions and consents and stuff like that, stay away. But if you are knowledgeable, or you're partnering with someone who is very knowledgeable on that, then you know you build yourself an edge. But whatever you do, don't treat it like it's a standard refurb and conversion. Like, you're going to have a bad time.
I think I just make the case for listed buildings so that all these listed buildings don't go empty because of what Jay's just said. Although I do totally agree with it, and I would also say from a numbers perspective, watch your IRR because it's likely to drag on, and that's a problem, generally speaking. But what I would say on the flip side of that is there are specific grant schemes available locally and nationally, and far more bodies that are sympathetic towards the restoring of listed buildings than there are to other buildings. They also tend, or can, occupy very, very strong positions, if not the very best positions in villages, towns and cities. So there are reasons to look closely, but you do need to be very careful.
So I have a question to Helen, because Helen, you fund some developments, and if someone comes to you for funding for like a grade 2 listed building, what kind of questions would you ask them to make sure that?
I've got 2 recommendations for chap that asked the question. So one, read one of my latest posts about headaches, because that to me has got headache written all over it. And the second is, I think it's my October article in PIN that Property Investor News magazine, Richard Bowser's amazing magazine, that talks about apples and apples. When you're looking at deals to choose, and we get this so much on Elevator, I talk about a specific deal and person that came on this series, and this thing, you know, he'd got overly emotionally involved with the deal and the detail and the vision, and, you know, had obviously poured money into kind of, you know, permissions or all sorts of stuff. And again, I'm looking at it and I'm just, all I can say is literally headlights, headache. I know, you know, kind of deals might not be as easy to come by at the moment, but honestly, like this is the problem of looking at deals almost like in isolation. You're just looking at this. That's the beauty of being kind of in my position. I'm not just looking at this. I have my blinkers are this, not here. So I'm looking at this deal versus this deal. I mean, the case for exactly, unless you know what you're doing, like Adam and Jay have both said, unless you really know what you're doing, you've got the expertise, you've got all that on board, and it's really tightly legally and otherwise planning wise kind of wrapped up. I don't know, like the reward has to be so much greater for that type of risk. And exactly as Adam said, and I've been burnt so many times on the IRR because of timescales, it has to be so much higher that it's a really difficult sell, I think, to an investor unless you know what you're doing. It's definitely not something to be taken on by you know, kind of a newbie or somebody with kind of less experience. For me, it would that's to me personally, that's a hard sell to an investor. Yes. I'd have so many questions. We'd be there for hours.
So basically, you're saying that it's okay to take on headaches, but only if you are a really good painkiller.
Yeah. Exactly. If you come with that, and actually, if the reward at the end is is worth it. But where you're coming and you're offering like a similar reward to a more or less straightforward deal, okay, it might be a couple of % higher. And this is what I generally say. There's a little bit more juice, headline expected juice in those deals. Of course there is. But actually what happens in actual effect, in practicality, is that time runs on, as Adam has said, and the reward, the payout is less. Then honestly, even if I just lent it out on a first charge basis at 10, 12%. And then I'm like, why did I bother with that?
We're gonna call you Piotr Setamol from now on. I think that's the.
I'm back.
Well, on the plus side, to completely not dig out graded or listed properties is actually, once they're done, they can be some of the most phenomenal living spaces to be in. Normally, unique architecture or high ceilings or solid wooden floors, all that kind of stuff. Maybe a converted church, for example, would come out like in a normal kind of development or conversion. So
I would also say that just to add to Jay there, bringing up converted church, that listed buildings are equally as flammable as unlisted buildings, just to let people know that from personal experience. Thanks, Jay.
Oh, nice one. Okay, guys, but it's we're past 11 o'clock. We did it again. We overran on time, but it's difficult not to with such a group of people. Yes, we would welcome, guys. Everyone who's watching would welcome comments on what you'd like to see on those Sunday morning chats and how we can make them even more watchable. And anything else to add, guys?
Just to say, see you next week. Loved it. Nice to be back. Good to see you all.
Great to be back.
Ditto that.
Nice one, guys. Okay, well, nice. Thank you for everyone for joining, and see you next week.
See you later.
Cheers, folks. Bye.